Hi, it's Michael Senoff with Michael Senoff's HardToFindSeminars.com. The title of this interview is called Sometimes You Have to Jump at the Chance. It's an inspirational interview with motorcycle daredevil legend Bob Gill. I recently sent out an email to my list called Daredevil about a childhood hero of mine named Evel Knievel. He was a motorcycle legend from the 1970s and 80s. Little did I know that one of the people receiving my email would be Daredevil himself, Bob Gill. He's a fellow Daredevil motorcycle legend and former friend of Evel Knievel's. So when Bob contacted me, I jumped at the chance to interview him about his motorcycle jumping days, the sponsorships he negotiated for himself, and how he made his money, his world-famous Super Bowl commercial, and his career-ending injury. And in this two-part audio, you'll hear all about Bob and how he became one of America's most amazing daredevil motorcycle jumpers of all time. In part one, we call it the flying by the seat of his pants. Bob says he lied his way into his first motorcycle jump. He had just started hearing about a guy named Evel Knievel who was making good money jumping his motorcycle, and he decided he wanted to try and do that too. So he went to the local racetrack promoter and told them he was already jumping 5 cars without the use of a landing ramp. The promoter was so impressed, he asked Bob to jump at the show that weekend. Instead of admitting to the lie, Bob jumped at the chance, enlisted the help of a physics-minded friend, and figured out how to make it all work. And that was just the beginning of many opportunities for this thrill seeker. And in part one, you'll hear how Bob went from a no-name guy from Florida to the guy everyone wanted to sponsor. You'll also hear all about his early days on the road with Evel Knievel. You'll hear exactly how Bob found his many successful sponsors and what he received from each. You'll learn how Bob kept racetrack owners honest when it came to the gate counts and payments. You'll hear the win-win deal Bob's manager used to sell Bob to racetrack promoters that earn Bob the big bucks. You'll learn why Bob is worried about Robbie Knievel's next jump and what he plans to do about it. Now get ready for part one, and let's get to it. I guess what I want to start with you, it's really cool that you were on my list and I sent that email out about Evel. So you wrote me back, and here's what you wrote. You said, Michael, I beat all of Evel's records without the use of a landing ramp. I jumped the whole fleet of Ryder trucks for Super Bowl 8 without a landing ramp. I set the nighttime world record at Seattle International Raceway July 17, 1973, jumping 22 cars, 171 feet, to a record crowd in the 1975 Guinness Book of World Records. They ran the Ryder commercial for 2 years in all major markets, making them #1 in rental trucks. The commercial was listed as Best Action Commercial of the Year. I jumped Cajun Canyon in New Orleans in 1972 to a record distance. I had a near-fatal crash August 25th, 1974, jumping a 200-foot lake, missing by 3 feet, hitting the bank at 95 miles an hour. My career ran from 1970 to 1974, jumping 165 times with only 5 crashes. Evel and I were best friends. After we both retired for over 30 years, I've known Robbie Knievel since he was a little boy. When I went to Evel's funeral in Butte, Montana, it was 10 below zero, yet 3,500 people showed up in the blowing snow. I really miss him. Now you're up to speed on Evel and I. I just thought that was so cool.
Well, cool. Congratulations.
So why'd you write me back?
Because, see, you and I had a brief conversation, and I'm sure you had no reason to remember it because I was talking about Jim Strawn. See, Jim sent me your little thing about the $20 deal several months ago. And I called you on the phone, and I asked you, I said, I'm out of town, and I have no way to pay you. And I'm going back to Butte, Montana. Could I please send you a check when I get back? And you said yes. And as soon as I got back and I turned my computer on, you sent me all the stuff, and you said, I'm just going to trust you. And I thought that was so cool that you did that. And then when Evel came through, I thought to myself, you know what, he's went to Google, and he's typed in some stuff and looked me up and found out that Evel and I used to compete. That's what I really thought. I didn't know that you were addressing that to the world.
Yeah, I heard that you were racing cars, and you weren't making enough money.
I started racing bikes when I was 14.
And were you racing competitively for money?
Oh, yeah. I started out naturally as a sportsman. That was what they called it back then when it was free. You raced for trophies. And then when I got to be, I think, 16, I became a novice, which is the first year of professional racing with the American Motorcycle Association. And I drove to California with my mechanic. I remember the first time I was in Iowa, and I was running down the road, probably about 65 or 70 in my van with a bunch of my friends. We were going to a race. And all of a sudden, Evel comes flying by us with this Winnebago with his flatbed trailer on it. and it says Evel Knievel on the side of it. And I went, what in the world is that? I've never heard of that before. This was before he did Caesar's Palace in '69. So, I'm wondering who in the world this Evel Knievel guy is. And so anyway, out in Iowa and Kansas, Missouri, and all this, every once in a while he would come zinging by, and he drives like Mach 10, He'd be driving, I bet you, 85 or 90 mile an hour in that motorhome. And he'd go by us. And after Caesar's Palace was over with, I found out who he was. I had not a clue who Evel Knievel was. That was in 1970 is when I really got the bug to do that. So, like I said, I lived in Florida, and I came back for the winter, and I got this bug in my head. I said, you know what, I think I can do that. I really think that I can be a motorcycle jumper. I've been a TT racer, a half-miler, a road racer, scrambler. I've done this all my life. So I went out to the racetrack, and I really just wanted to kind of feel my way. Sunshine Speedway in my hometown of St. Petersburg is a real big quarter-mile stock car paved track. They do figure eight in there, and they had a drag strip. And all the big names that have all been in the history have all raced there. Don Garlitz and Art Malone and all the big funny car guys and all, they've all been there. So I went out there into the racetrack, and I talked to the manager. And Joey Chitwood is a really good friend of mine. He's a big stunt car guy. He did a lot of the James Bond movies. And Chitwood used to do a lot of testing out there. So I'm out there with the racetrack promoter, and I lied to him. I said, I've been jumping cars out in the Midwest all summer long, and this is my hometown. I just wondered if I could get a shot at doing it here on your racetrack, on the quarter-mile track and the drag strip. And he says to me, well, what have you been jumping? So I just pulled out a blue sky. I said, I'm jumping 5 cars with no landing ramp. And he goes, wow, no landing ramp? And I said, yeah. I said, that's a little bit different than Evel Knievel, because I just started hearing about Evel Knievel.
You didn't even premeditate.
I've never done it before. I don't have any equipment for it or nothing. And I'm out there on a Monday.
What was your idea? You wanted to start this career, and this was going to be a way in?
Well, a way in, but I figured that, well, maybe, I can get him interested, and I'll go home and build some ramps, and I'll do some playing around, and I'll figure out how to do this, and then I'll just come out here and do it.
And he would have you when there would be an auto race?
Yeah, like a quarter-mile track race on Saturday night and drag strip on Friday night. So his name's Al Lamphere. And I said to Al, I said, what do you think about that? And he said, I got an idea. And I said, what is it? He jumps up from his desk. He goes back to a desk behind him. He pulls out a drawer and throws this big book up on the top of the desk, opens it up, and he says, you know Joey Chitwood? And I go, well, yeah, I'm from here, and he's in Tampa, and he's a big stunt car guy. He does all the Bond movies. He says, yeah. He says, he's supposed to be out here Friday and Saturday nights. And by the way, this is Monday. I'm talking to you. And he says he had to cancel. He had to go out of town. Why don't we have you here Friday night on the drag strip and Saturday night on the oval track? And I go, oh, my God. I didn't want to say to him I've never done this before because I've already told him this big cockamamie story. So he says, how much do you charge? And I thought to myself, here's where I'm going to buy some time. I'm going to highball this sucker, and he's not going to let me do it. So I was thinking to myself, every week after racing 5 times a week in about a 3,000-mile loop, I used to make about, I guess maybe $3,000. That's if I won the races or got in the top 3. So I said to him, I said, how about $3,000? He says, done.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
At this time, you didn't have any idea about what Evel was doing okay, all right, keep going. This is good.
And I go home, and there's this guy that lives across the street from me, Frank Boyd. He goes to college. He's younger than me. He's studying external ballistics, which something projected at a certain angle goes a certain distance, and, like you do a bullet. So I went over to him, and I said, Frank, I said, would you help me? And he says, what do you need? And I said, well, I booked a date at Sunshine Speedway Friday night, Saturday night to do a 5-car jump, and I've never done it before. And I don't have a ramp. I don't have anything. I don't know what to do. And I said, could you maybe help me? He starts laughing. He says, you did what? And I said, yeah. And he says, okay. He says, we can whip up something. So him and I, we worked almost every night till midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning building ramps and doing all these crazy things and figuring out how to get the thing in my van and paint it and make it look like I've been on it before. And we took the stuff out to a place called Wheaton Island. It's out by the Florida power plant, and set it up in a field and put some string across where 5 cars would be. And I went out there and jumped until I could get over that string. And all this happened from Monday afternoon until Thursday morning when Al Lamphere wanted me out there for a press conference. And he had all the media, which all the media then was ABC, NBC, and CBS. That's it.
Wait, when was the press conference? What night?
On Thursday.
Thursday. So he wanted you out there for a press conference.
Yes, yes. So I'm out there. I mean, I've made all kinds of modifications to my bike, what I think would really work suspension-wise and all. I did all my mechanical work. I used to build all my Daytona bikes. I know how to do this stuff, but I didn't know I was going to be under this kind of pressure. So we go out there on Thursday, and we set up on a drag strip, and I'd been jumping in dirt out in the field right behind the power plant. So we set the thing up, and I had never jumped over cars. I just jumped over string. So Al Lamphere brings out 5 cars, which are his employees, and they park them all out there, and the media's all there, and pretty soon it looks a lot further than that string was. You know, natural things are a lot different than what jumping over air looks like. So I said to Frank, I said, does that look like it's about the right distance? So he goes out there to the tape measure and measures. He says, yeah, it's right on the money. He says, it's exactly what we did at Wheaton Island.
How scared were you?
Oh, I was scared to death. I was petrified. So the media sets all the cameras up, and the St. Pete Times was there, and the Tampa Tribune was there, and the Clearwater Sun was there, and they all got their cameras. What they wanted to do, they wanted to run it on the newspaper, run it on the TV, and, you know, he was going to buy some commercials, because the next night I was going to be jumping. So I go out there, and I make a couple speed runs by, and I'm really scared.
Were you doing wheelies?
I could wheelie real well. I mean, I did wheelies too, but the jump was what was really bothering me.
Did you have a speedometer? Did you know how fast you...
No.
Did your friend help you figure out exactly how fast you needed to be going when you hit
He told me how fast I needed to be going, and what we did is we geared my bike to where I could run full speed in third gear, and we clocked it as the speed that we needed to be. So that's how I calculated what I was doing, because I was riding a dirt bike. I was riding a Bultaco 250 dirt bike.
Who made that bike?
They were made in Spain.
Okay, and that's a good bike?
Oh, it was a real good bike, and I used to use that for my quarter-mile racing, so I had it, but I had to put better suspension on it.
You're listening to an exclusive interview found on Michael Senoff's HardToFindSeminars.com. So you were really the main event to sell tickets and bring people out.
Oh, yeah. I made a couple speed runs in third gear, and I said to Frank, I said, I don't feel like I'm going fast enough. I'm afraid I'm going to land in these cars. I'm going to do it in fourth gear. He says, well, he said, it's going to make a big difference. So I ran up at fourth gear, and I jumped over, and I was still going up when I went past the fifth car. And when it come down, the rear tire and the front tire both blew out. The front hub cracked, and it wobbled, and, man, I landed so hard my back was killing me. I didn't fall. No, I did not fall. I stayed on the bike. I turned it around, and I came back and stopped it, and they all come over to me with the cameras, and I was camera shy because I'd never done this before. And it made me nervous, and I tripped all over what I was saying, and it was just a terrible thing. But I did it. I pulled it off.
Was that footage in the documentary on you?
The only thing that's in the documentary is the pictures of me riding the Bultaco on the rear wheel, and I think there's one shot in the air, but it didn't show the landing. It's at nighttime at the Speedway. But this was during the daytime.
How packed was that place?
Oh, it was packed. Absolutely packed. Friday night and Saturday night, both people were hanging from rafters.
Now, would it have been as packed if you weren't jumping?
Oh, no.
How did they fill the seats before?
Friday night drag strip was always a very local thing, and maybe they would pull 800 or 1,000 people, and we pulled about 5,000 that night. The oval track, it had grandstands all on one side, and it would probably be maybe half full most Saturday nights. The place was packed. They were all lined up by the fence. The pits were full. It was unreal. I drew so well that that's where I got my start. They named me the Florida Flyer. That year, I jumped 65 or 67 times, and I made about 80 grand.
Did you start charging more after that one?
Well, yeah. Got a business manager out of South Carolina.
Okay, so you did the first jump, and then you got a little notoriety, newspaper articles. You were kind of a star right then. And then what happened after that first jump? Did your phone start ringing, or did people come to you to do stunts, or did you hustle up more business?
I actually did the hustling myself at that time. I called Tampa Dragway. They all knew, I mean, because it was on the front page of the St. Pete Times, the front page of the Tampa Tribune. I was a pretty hot ticket.
Hi, it's Michael Senoff with HardToFindSeminars.com. Thanks for watching this video. You know, many of my interviews last 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, sometimes even up to 2.5 hours long. They're actual mini seminars, and you've just listened to a short sample of just one of over 117 hours of exciting, hard-hitting, mind-blowing interviews on how to make money in direct mail, advertising, copywriting. I assure you, there is not a resource anywhere on the internet or on the planet that comes close to the free information I provide at HardToFindSeminars.com. So go right now to HardToFindSeminars.com, and you'll have free access to 117 hours of audio interviews with typed word-for-word downloadable transcripts and downloadable MP3 files. Please browse some more of the videos or go right directly to HardToFindSeminars.com. Thanks for watching.